I have been trying to get our guest on the podcast for quite a while. He's a very busy guy, Mike McAra from Reach Canada. We were just talking off camera about how I absolutely love being part of Reach Canada. I think this is my third year, and I don't talk about it enough. So I'm really, really excited to have you on. Director of Reach Canada, in fact. And I'm going to let you tell everybody about who you are and where you came from, because as I was saying, I looked you up just to get a little bit more on your bio, and it says that you have 7 current jobs or 7 current positions.
Seven
You've
things I've
got hands in a
transitioned
lot
across.
of pots for sure, but thank you so much for being here.
No, thanks for having me. And it's nice to actually be in Toronto.
Yes, and he even shared a restaurant I've never heard of before.
That's true.
So there we go.
True. That's true.
That was it. I got a restaurant recommendation.
It was great. But where did I come from? So I came from Calgary. We can start there. I was actually born and raised in Calgary, as every good Calgarian does. When I graduated high school, I was good at math and science. And so what do? You go into engineering to work in oil and gas.
Yes.
I did not go into engineering because at the time, somebody said, you know what, you can go and be like an engineer, but it's this thing called a geologist, and you take 2 less classes than the engineers, and you go hang out in the mountains. To which I said, this is awesome. Let's go do that. So I went out and became a geologist, and I did that for the first 7.5, 8 years of my career. And
oh my God, I can't wait to hear the segue from geologist.
So what's really interesting about this, and I'll just level set this and we'll come back to it, is as a geologist, your job is to invest in something that is not applicable today. It doesn't exist today. It's this concept underground, right? It could be a deposit of gold. It could be this oil deposit, but you have to create this idea that there's something there that could be. And then you have to commit investment capital to it, and then you have to test to see if it's there. So let's just park that for a second. That's what the role of an exploration geologist is. So to transition across, I was working with my company, and I had put up this big opportunity, and I'm like, guys, this is this really big thing. It was actually down in South Australia, but to do it, I want to go and do my MBA. So we had this whole thing moving forward. We're going to go do my
engineering degree, MBA.
This is 2014. So everybody's doing timelines. This is fall 2014. I go and I go over to Nice, France to do my MBA, which great spot to do it if you're going to do it.
Yes, my husband's grandparents retired there. I am familiar with it. It's a gorgeous spot to be.
Not a bad spot.
Studying.
Not a bad spot.
Yes,
Another reason how I landed there, but the short answer is it's a 1-year program for an MBA.
Okay.
So fall 2014, go start my MBA. 1 month later, the oil market crashes, falls off a cliff, goes from like $120 a barrel to about 30, right? Okay. Next things that happen, the South Australia government pulls all new land title exploration permits. So we can't work there. And then the third thing is one of our capital providers or our investors, he ended up tragically passing away. So I'm sitting there mid-MBA.
Oh my gosh.
Don't know what I'm going to do and rethinking about all my life choices at that point in time. But then I got an email from a colleague, and the colleague was saying, hey, we're thinking of doing this like tech company thing, and you're doing an MBA. Is there a way in which maybe you could, use your MBA stuff and help us with this tech company thing? Okay. And I said, well, I have to write a capstone project. I have to write a business plan, which we all know the value of business plans, but I had to write one for my degree. Okay. So they said, well, why don't you write one for us? And so the concept was let's apply wealth management to real estate. Let's help realtors become more like wealth managers. Put another way, say you have 100 clients you sold properties to, meet with them on an annual basis, talk about their home as it pertains to an investment perspective. How has the value shifted? How are things like your equity and debt? This is 2014, right?
And so always ahead of the curve.
So they had, so this was them, not me. So they had actually been using this methodology in their brokerage, which they called the home investment advisor. And what they had is a leather binder. They'd sit down with their homeowners. They had 7 sections: value, maintenance, wishes, wants, and needs. And the whole idea was to create a relationship with the customer. And they're like, listen, we want to build this in a digital way that we can take it to market and help. At that time, the Danger Report was coming out. I don't know if you remember that. Swanepoel had published it. Korea was just about to fund the Canadian version of the Danger Report, which effectively was saying disruption's happening. Realtors are going to go away.
I got my license in 2012.
Okay.
And I remember
this was like
this is a great time to become a realtor.
Right. So this was that time. And so our whole thing was, listen, we can help realtors deliver even more value seems like one thing that we continue to talk to today. Service the customer, and the rest takes care of itself.
Yes.
And
Shift the
so,
value
put it another way, can we take this leather binder we've done, turn it into technology, and be away with it, right? We'll be the next Uber, was the thought. So I write the business plan, I give it to them, forget about it, submit it, finish my degree.
Okay.
Thinking maybe I do some management consulting, maybe I do investment banking. And I get a phone call and they say, so we've raised $500,000. Would you like to come on and be a co-founder? Sure, I don't know anything about technology, but I did help write the plan, and so I think I kind of know it, and let's do this. Let's dive in, right? The oil market was down and didn't really know. So all of a sudden I became a tech founder and did everything wrong. Absolutely everything wrong. We had some good advisors. We didn't take their advice. And what we did is we built out this massive technology platform that did everything that this leather binder had. It had all the sections, and each section was a tab. Looked great.
Sexy.
Really nice, really nice. Great branding, great marketing. Looked awesome. And we had to get our MVP, which actually wasn't an MVP. We literally just built the whole thing. We're like, let's not talk to anybody. Let's just build this whole thing and take it to market. So we do. So we built this whole platform. We take it. We have our first session with realtors. And they're like, this is cool. This is great. I really like the idea. Question though. I'm like, yeah, what's the question? Why would I go and do all of that work when I can go and buy leads off Facebook for $2? And we're like, fair point. And let's be honest.
Not a fair point.
Well, I mean, let's think about this.
It's like asking, like, okay, I'm selling you apples, and you go, yeah, but what I could go buy an orange for $2.
So this was a good understanding of who is our target customer, right? And all of a sudden we're
This is
like, well,
why
maybe
I love
it's
being part of Reach.
so maybe it's not the lead gen focused big large
Yeah.
teams that have the large CRMs with the
The
auto
Tom
dialers.
Ferry
Right.
followers, yeah,
Perhaps
yeah.
this is more in alignment. We always aligned ourselves more with like ninja selling,
Yeah.
right? Ninja selling, Brian Buffini,
Yep.
sort of more relational aspects of it.
Yep.
But those folks already had the relation-based systems. And so, look, well, why would I go out and build this technology? They're like, but it's really sexy. Can I use it as a CRM? We're like, oh my gosh. We did not want to build a CRM.
We just built a CRM.
We did not want to build a CRM. But maybe. So I went back to investors like, listen, we should have talked to customers sooner. We didn't. Here's what the customer said. They don't want it, but they like it as a CRM. Can we have some more money to turn it into a CRM and call it a day? So we did. So we raised another tranche of capital, pivoted it to a CRM. It's called Real Office 360. It's still around today. It's a relationship-based, relationship-focused CRM. There's other components around it. You still see the, I would call it like the roots of this home investment advisor concept. It's still there. And got that to profitability. And all the while during that process, I was looking across that imaginary border that is the Canada-US border and saying, hey, that REACH program looks interesting. And I'll come back to what REACH is, but from a tech founder perspective, I was looking at this program in the US that helps startups connect with industry. I'm like, hey, I really want to be a part of that. This is probably 2016, 2017. There was no REACH Canada.
Okay.
And so I LinkedIn'd a lot of the founders that had gone through it, and most of them said, hey, yeah, it's really great, you should engage with it, but it's like pretty competitive. It's only a US program. Okay. So it was on my radar. So fast forward to 2019, I'm scrolling through LinkedIn, and the company Real Office 360, it's profitable, it's humming along, but we're not changing the world, right, with the CRM. We're not changing the world with that concept. And I see this person come across my LinkedIn feed, my home feed, and it's Lynette Kiowski, Special Advisor, REACH. And then I look below and it says British Columbia, Canada. Interesting. So I do what any entrepreneur does. You cold message the person and you say, how can I be helpful? And so I messaged Lynette and I said, interesting, didn't know there was a REACH Canada or REACH in Canada. How can I be helpful? And at the time, we had a group of 8 or 9 of us doing a prop tech breakfast, property technology, prop tech, every quarter in Calgary.
Okay.
And so I was like, I've got some people, like, what do you need? She's like, I need 2 things. I need companies and I need my number 2. To which I said, companies I can help you with. Number 2, let's talk more about it. She calls me immediately. She's like, why does a CEO and co-founder want to abandon their baby, right? For lack of a better word.
Right.
And join me and do this. And I at that point said, great question. Quite frankly, I've always had that investment eye going back to my geology days, right? What is understanding the art of the possible allocating capital. That's what I had always done. I've now had the opportunity to roll up my sleeves and actually be an entrepreneur and try it, understand how hard it is to engage with the real estate community, how hard it is to build technology, how hard it is to raise capital, gone through it, got my company to a place where it's profitable, we're not changing the world. I'm looking for something new. So then we both played hard to get.
Brilliant.
And I started at Reach Canada February 1st, 2020, which we could stop there. But that's my background. So that's how I got to where I am.
Oh my God, a month before COVID
That's
hits?
right, which is another
Dun,
great
dun,
little...
dun.
Yes.
So we were, that's brilliant. So it's amazing how you articulated that, because when you think, I think geology, I think, like I couldn't think anything farther
Totally.
from the tech world, the real estate world. Anyway, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And as we were talking before the camera started rolling, one of the things that attracted to me, first of all, let's give a shout out to our common friend Natalka Falcomer, who is with Housefuls, Royal Bank. I think it's...
I like Royal Bank, yeah.
I think it's Royal, it's still a Royal Bank company. Anyway, sorry, Natalka. Anyway, she was the VP at Chestnut Park, and that's how her and I became friends, and definitely a good friend and a mentor to me, who introduced us. And to me, the thought of real estate combining with my tech background as well, or not tech, sorry, I would not even in the same realm.
Just because I work in tech, doesn't mean I know it that well, okay? I'm not coding either, so.
No, but I'll never forget. So I worked in the digital world. That's a very specific, nuanced difference. And I worked for Microsoft and AOL and Yahoo and all of those guys. And my experience going back to my advertising days, where I started when magazine was king, when, a P&G started their the good old days. Oh, I've got stories. But like P&G started their, I'm not joking you on this one, okay? They started their entire advertising budget, and they started here with oh my God, what is the magazine that's like in every dentist office? I'm not joking you. Like it's just I don't even remember what it's called. Like and it was 50% started there, and then they would divvy it up between like Chatelaine and like the rest of it. I mean, literally. And now and I watched being in newspaper, and the Toronto Star had all the, and the Globe and Mail was national, and then you gave it to the Toronto Star, and then that was it. And they believed that they could hold on to the money and they could hold on to the business by just keeping their cards close and ignoring and putting blinders on to the development of what was going on around them, which was digital. And I have heard for so long the words from clients, from colleagues, from everybody that the real estate, fries are ready, that the real estate industry as a whole is ripe for disruption. Yeah. And that's what we heard from the advertising world. And I really, for the first time, good or bad, we're on the cusp of it. I really believe, and I don't know if it's AI, and I'd love to get your feeling about it and how close you feel we're at that. But I think there's always that tipping point. And as soon as we get over it, it's just gonna flow. And going back to the idea of this, value proposition of agents going, I'd rather buy leads, or it's not about the agents not like becoming non-existent, because they're still reps. I have friends who are still reps in the advertising world, but your value proposition has changed. They're hiring engineers, they're hiring data coders to be salespeople. So you have to change your value proposition. Anyway, all that to be said, when Natalka mentioned to me, I'm like, I want to be a part of it. I want to see what the latest tech is, because I want to use it. I want to be able to go to my clients and say, hey, I've got a Perch Canada who may be able to get you a better interest rate just because they've got an algorithm.
And a great experience on the back end.
And a great experience on the back end.
Once you do get a mortgage with them.
They're fabulous humans, right? So yes, and by the way, I pushed them, and I had Alex on the Alex on the show. And I'm not the guy who would go, my generation is not the one. I would not go to an algorithm and punch in all my stuff in, right?
Yeah, you have a person.
I have a person, but you still get a person.
You still get a person. Yeah, you get both.
So, I mean, I'm so interested. I think that it's interesting for people to understand that this is going on out there, and that there is there is development in the back end of these companies, and I think it's slow, but it's happening.
Yeah, so I say maybe take a step back. So we'll go back, what are we here, 2024? So let's go back, we'll go back 16 years. We'll go back all the way, I think it's 16 years, do the quick math, 2008.
You're the engineer.
Yeah, geologist. I didn't take those extra math classes.
Okay.
I was in the mountains. That's what I was doing. Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly. I check you all about that. Anyways, so in 2008 was the 100-year centennial of the National Association of Realtors. Okay. They had been around since 1908.
NARS.
NAR. Yeah, correct.
NAR.
The American Association, obviously, with Korea up here north of the border, trademarked, obviously, Realtor. 2008, they have a strategy session. We have done a great job for the first 100 years. What ensures our value proposition going forward for the next 100? And part of that Second Century initiative was to establish Second Century Ventures.
Oh.
That's why it's called Second Century Ventures. It was part of the Second Century initiatives to ensure that NAR delivers value to their members for the second century of their existence.
I don't think Korea does that.
So I'm going to speak to the NAR perspective.
Yeah.
And so part of that was the Second Century Ventures. And what Second Century Ventures' mission was to invest in technology that empowers realtors to be at the center of the transaction going forward.
Okay.
Put another way, we all hear about disruption, all this stuff's happening. Instead of having it happen to us, let's participate with us to ensure that the realtor maintains essential to the transaction driving forward.
Okay.
And so in 2008, they started as a pure venture vehicle.
If they can, for sure. I mean, I'm not about putting something in it just for the purpose of being in it, but if it's built around that from a positive perspective.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing just generally speaking about what we're seeing in technology is roles shift and flow over time, right? When you brought in the Industrial Revolution as an example, right? Jobs were lost, yes, but new jobs were created. It's not dissimilar.
And efficiency was created.
Correct, and it's not dissimilar. The printing press. You can go on countless examples, right, in history where new technology has hit the table, jobs are lost, but then new jobs are created moving forward. And so when you think from a technological perspective is, listen, this is going to happen with or without us, so we may as well participate. And we may as well participate such that we give ourselves the best chance to ensure that we are continuing to drive forward and ensure our relevance moving forward. And so that was the core focus of Second Century, which launched in 2008 in the United States. And they were making investments in technology that was to benefit the practitioner, to benefit the homeowner at the end of the day.
And sorry to interrupt, but at the end of the day, this is truly and needs to be and about the homeowner. It needs to be about how does this make this process a better experience for them, that they get transparency, that they get a consistent level also of service, and that there is some type of improvement on their end. I mean, I love the idea that the realtor has to be in the middle of it, without a doubt. No. But again, I think, you know, it has to benefit the realtor to be able to deliver on that service to the.
Well, and I think going back to it is, you know, you talked about value proposition, right, and ensuring the value proposition. And so at the end of the day, if you put your hat on as a consumer, let's not even say homeowner, right? What do I want to receive, right? I want a high quality product. I want clear expectations, right? And I want value. And value is derived in different ways. And I think as long as you think from the consumer, end user, whatever perspective you want to think about it, then it all feeds back to that. And so what I love about the whole Second Century initiative was let's invest in technology that helps make our members more effective, derive more value, and create a better experience. And so one of those investments was DocuSign, as an example. DocuSign has saved how many late night trips to clients' house not getting signatures? And so that was but one example.
I don't even know how we did it before.
Correct, right? Correct. And a more recent example would be...
like I still have clients like of a certain age that have to sign in person, and I'm like, how did we do it? Well, everything moves slower. So that's it.
So fast forward to COVID, and down in the United States, they have to notarize everything, right? And e-notary wasn't a thing. And so all of a sudden, hey, we have this portfolio company called Notarize, now called Proof. And all of a sudden, regulations were changed overnight because people had to shift how they were doing it, and they just had a technology that was able to go and facilitate it. So that aside, that process was still there. So taking that step back with Second Century Ventures, they were investing directly into the tech companies. So think Dragon's Den, but just for tech companies, for realtors. And what they found was that was really, really great. But what was even better was if they invest in those companies and then help them connect to the practitioner. Put another way, Rachel, meet Joe or Jane, CEO of this tech company. This is what they're doing. Rachel, tell them what would make your life even better. And then they take that feedback and make the product even better. And so they started to see that come together. And by 2013, they said, listen, let's formalize this. Let's do this in a thing called Reach. And that will be an accelerator. And an accelerator is something that you'll hear the words like 500 startups. You'll hear about Y Combinator is the big famous one. But what an accelerator is to work with earlier stage tech companies that are trying to solve a problem in a given market. And they go through a curriculum, for lack of a better word. And at Reach, the curriculum was this. For 8 months, we're going to take you and put you in front of realtors, brokers, association executives, board members, stakeholders, and we are going to expose you such that you can get feedback, make your product even better, and it's going to do two things. It's going to make the practitioners much more effective at their jobs, but secondarily, you're going to grow your business because you actually have a product that people want, and so we're going to invest a little bit in you at that point. And if things continue to grow, we've got this other capital vehicle that can fuel your growth moving forward. And so that started Reach in 2013, just in the US. And to do that, just to round it out, we will only work with 8 companies every year. That's what we were going to do. It's 8 companies a year, 1 region, 2013.
Okay.
Fast forward to today, we have 7 regions around the world doing that exact same thing. Amazing. Myself and my partner Lynette. So Lynette is, again, the brains behind it. She's the managing partner of Reach Canada. We run Canada.
Okay.
And so we work with 8 new companies every year in Canada specifically. Our program, our 8 months starts in October. It runs from May, which is 180 degrees to every other program in Reach that typically runs across the summer. We've done that for a number of different reasons. And then when we boil it back to what our objective is, it's to work with really great tech companies, connect them to folks like yourself, industry, and we can get into this a little bit, such that they can deliver even better product, which ultimately makes the experience even better for the consumer and the homeowner.
And what I love about it is that it's not a room of, like on my end of it, it's not a room of realtors. So I will get on the Zoom calls, and there is an array of people on the call, as you mentioned, and the companies. And I think that this is also what people should know is that it's a cross section of companies. It's not just how do we sell your home? How do we get new clients? That's not what the Reach is about. Reach is about the back end. It's about property management. It's about bookkeeping, everything possible I have seen. And so what I love about it is that, we get presented the new companies every year, and then we get a survey, and you say, okay, who do you think you can help? Yeah. And then you say why, right? And there's many times I'll look at it, I have, I'm not a brokerage, so the back end of it, I have no idea, and this is not my relevant, whatever. Yeah. But I'm so excited to hear about this one, and I would love to be able to understand what they're doing in that space, because that would really help my business and my clients and whatever. And then I get to have those one-on-ones with them and talk to them. And as we were saying before, Alex Ludick of Perch was one of the first ones that really caught my eye. Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2022.
I think he's like part of the mentor program now,
he's
isn't he?
a mentor now, which is really cool to see.
And they've
been doing really great things.
Shout out to Alex, and they're doing very, very well in raising their capital, and they're growing. And I think that they're one of the really great examples of what Reach is doing. So think of the mortgage space. First of all, I didn't even know what a mortgage broker was until I got into real estate. Really, because I was like,
well, why would you?
I just go, well, I'm also like, I'm 50. Like, I'm
but
this
why would you though, right?
But at my age,
yeah.
I mean, if you've talked to a 25, 35-year-old, they've heard of a mortgage broker, right?
They probably have a friend. They probably have a friend.
I'm just going to say they have a friend, right? I didn't have friends that were mortgage brokers, right? I just went into my bank, right? I've been with TD for however long, and that's who I went to, and I had no idea that, anyway. So, but there's that space, and I will say I have some great mortgage brokers that I work with right now, and I'm not disparaging anyone, but do you know how long it took me to find good, consistent mortgage brokers? Very similar to realtors, by the way, so I'm not shitting on mortgage brokers that are in the game, that stay, that are still in business, that are full-time, that know what they're doing, that didn't mess up a deal for me. And what Alex and his team and his company have come in is now, on some level, not digitized, but they've created an algorithm while pairing that with a personal experience and a human experience. Because I did push back on it, as I said to you. I pushed back on him and I said,
which is the type of feedback they need.
Yeah, no, I said to him, I would not want to hand over to my client a bot, right? Not to say they were, and they are not.
For that specific element of the business.
Exactly. For any of it, for sure. But what would you say of the, how many years, let's say, now that we've
5 years. So
okay, thank you.
We're into our 5th year now.
Okay, so, and there's been 7, so there's 35 companies that have come through?
So we've got 7 regions around the world operating concurrently. So actually we have over 285 companies in the portfolio, of which in Canada alone, 39 companies. So we have specifically worked hands-on with 39 companies since that February 1st, 2020 date. Okay,
so let's get into what you, because how many applicants would you say that you get a year?
So yeah, we'll take a couple steps back because we touched on a lot there. So one side, and I love it.
This is my brain, and then you will. Yeah.
But I love this, and I think it's actually a really good example of like how we get to work with industry. And so just to take a step back of working with industry, participating, and what that all looks like. So Reach Canada exists. We work with these companies, and you get these surveys. The reason why you get the survey is because you've put your hand up. You're introduced to us. Great. Don't need that. We have a website you can go to, and people can just say, hey, I'm interested in how technology can help enhance my business.
Yep, we'll put it in the show notes.
Writ large, full stop. That's all you have to do. And from that, we'll jump on a call. We'll understand what you're looking to get out of it. And just like that, you can be part of what we call our mentor pool. And the whole objective of the mentor pool is quite simply what you said. I'm willing to, yes, see what these companies have on offer, and I'm willing to commit the time to say if I can help them or not. And what help them mean is commit to one hour Zoom call. That's it. And from that, then the rest starts to take care of itself. And what you start to see is other folks come back, and the question we get all the time is like, I don't know if I have value or if I can add some context that might be, helpful for this person. The reality is, you know your business the best.
Right.
Whatever that might be. You might be a brand new agent, you might be an established agent, you might be looking to retire, you might be a broker, you might be a broker that's having some challenges. It doesn't matter. You know your business. And because you have that specific lens, when it fits right with the tech companies, that's what they need to hear. Right. They need to understand your perspective so they can help create their product. And I think one of the fallacies that we see a lot is people assume that tech companies are building a specific product and they aren't going to change. The reality is they have an idea of the problem they want to solve and the mission they're on. How they get there is the journey. And the journey shifts based on the feedback they have around it. And the feedback largely is the feedback, ideally, that's shared from folks like yourself. So Reach becomes even better for the ecosystem the more participants we have and the more feedback we can get for the respective companies. So we use Alex as an example. A great piece of feedback is this. Listen, you can automate, but there are certain things you cannot automate. Because quite frankly, if I use you as a mortgage broker, you are an extension of my team. And I expect this level of service. And this level of service does not come with full automation. I love that you can do it, don't care. Had he gone and built full automation and wasted all that money without talking to customers, that's bad for everybody.
Well, I think I think that there is the saying like there's something for everyone is very true. The question is whether it'll scale. And whether, I'm always like on that fence of like, jury of one. Like you always have to be careful, right? Like this is my perspective. For sure. For example, and I do want to get into this as well with you, is like what those requirements are that you look for and how do you whittle them down. Yeah. I feel like we're going to, I just start watching that Dallas Cowboys Netflix series.
I haven't started watching it yet, yeah.
I'm telling you, my husband watching, he goes, if you will. He goes, I love you, please don't make me watch this with you. Anyway, so yeah, anyway, but I got an email the other day. I don't know how I got on this mailing list for a company that was going to automate choosing your agent, and it made me sick. Like it just made my skin crawl. And it was like this auction type. So it was like, hi, I'm a homeowner. I'm going to put my house up on this auction bidding site, and all these agents can bid on my business. And I'm like, ugh. Like literally, I'm like, I'm out. Yeah. So, but having said that, I will tell you wholeheartedly that there's 200 plus agents over here go, what's the URL? I'll put my name on there right now. Right. Because there's people, and I have had calls from them where they're like, come and talk to me about my house and whatever, and they want the lowest common denominator. I wish you all the best. No hard feelings. I'm not the one for you.
Yeah.
And not because I'm here to gouge you, but because my value proposition is very different than those 200 people that would want to auction off for you, right? Yeah. So I don't want to shit on that idea because I think there's something for everyone. But on the other hand, if someone like Alex, who is brilliant, he's a lovely human being, he's got a great team, what he's trying to achieve is not that, right? And he does want to deliver a high quality product. Yeah. And so having that, like, I believe in a team approach. I like having my clients on with a lawyer and a mortgage broker right off the bat. You can't do that with an algorithm.
Yeah, and I think I'm not familiar with the company, but I'm familiar with obviously the concept. And I think where it comes back to the type of companies that we're looking to work with at Reach is quite simply this: do they add value to the broader real estate ecosystem writ large, with the realtor top of mind? And I think just having that lens, it becomes a very easy first pass. Okay. Secondarily is it truly a tech company? You'll see a lot of folks.
Well, that's an interesting. So explain that a little bit for like just the average person out there.
So what you'll see is a lot of folks that a lot of digital brokerages, right? Hey, we've created this really great website. We get awesome leads.
You're like a House Sigma.
You're a digital brokerage, right? And so we can't work with a digital brokerage because we are brand and brokerage agnostic. We work across the industry. Okay. And so we get a lot of folks who are like, hey, like I've really cracked the code in this respective market. I want to scale it across Canada. That's great. That's a franchise model. That's not a tech company that's scalable for all. We're here for all practitioners.
Interesting.
Right? All realtors.
Okay.
And so when we look at what we're doing, it's saying, how is this net accretive? So I'll give you a great example. So with the affordability challenges across the country, renting has become much more part of the conversation. The challenge with rentals is that data is disaggregated, it's fragmented. So we work with a company out of the United States called Rental Beast, which is the MLS of rental data, and brought them to Canada, and which they are now working with the respective associations and boards to have that data at the fingertips of the practitioners. Now, you might not want to dabble in rentals, but if you want to, because that gives you that first step on the ladder of the property ladder.
For sure, absolutely.
Now you're starting to work on that. And so we take the lens of, how can we look at this holistically? So as opposed to, from I would say maybe backing up a little bit, is like, okay, well, there's other things. When you're talking to your customer, how else can you be incredibly valuable? Well, it's prepping the home for sale. It's having the home transition after sale. Okay, construction, home renovation, maintenance. Those are all things that are great things. Insurance, that's another great thing. Aging in place. Those are also great technologies. We worked with the firm who did fire prevention in the kitchen for unattended cooking. It was an actual hardware device that sits on the oven, and if you weren't in the kitchen, it would actually turn off the power source. So is that accretive to the realtor and the real estate professional value proposition?
But it is.
Yes, in a way. And so our job is to say, let's look at the entire end-to-end experience, and where can we help bring technology such that, two things, it makes the better experience, but it also makes realtors that want to engage in that specific area even more valuable to their customers and their clients. So as an example, if you have folks that are aging in place, it's not, yes, we need to sell your place. It's, well, you know what, you could probably get a couple more years here because the biggest issue is falls, fires. So let's get this system in here. You've now added value to that relationship. Maybe you'll get to sell 2 years from now, maybe it'll happen, who knows. Yeah. But you're delivering value as that trusted advisor. And I think however you're looking at this is, how can we bolt on technologies that help empower you to just be the professional that you want to be, to your point, whichever aspect that is.
Right, and everybody, listen, I think what people don't realize when it comes to realtors, and I'm only one lens of Reach Canada, but is that we are self-employed and we run our own businesses. Yep. And so the question is, how would you like to run your business? Yep. That's the bottom line. There are people who want to, who want to have podcasts. There's people who do not.
I don't know those people.
Neither do I. They're crazy.
Yeah, it's hard work.
And then there's other people who want to build gigantic teams. There's people who just want to do 5 deals a year and just call it a day and spend their, winters in Florida. And by the way, there's no right or wrong, right? So, but I think that what I love about what Reach Canada does is brings a value proposition to the agents. And one of the biggest challenges, I think, honestly, and I've said this to a lot of the people that I've talked to over the last 3 years,
I'm sure, yeah,
is, realtors in general are really cheap.
People.
people
are looking for value. I might rephrase that.
But I would say that I would say that a lot of agents don't necessarily, and I'm not talking about the top producers, but in general, and it's a tough world, and don't come for me, but like the reality is that in general, we're not people that spend a lot of money. Okay, and it gives us overall a bad name. So I've had a lot of these people, like I've had one-on-ones with them, and I'm like, I mean, in the US, you might be able to scale it, for example. I think that's probably the biggest challenge I find giving them feedback is Canada's a smaller market, and so our volume is different. And so, you know, as I mentioned, I have Steve coming on from Stellar this afternoon. And they've created this very cool AI. I think it's AI. He's gonna tell me more about it.
He'll tell you more about it. Yeah, it's cool.
But basically, like giving a much more in-depth analysis of the health of a condo.
The capital planning strategy, exactly.
Thank you. Which lawyers, great lawyers. I work with several great lawyers who will do a very good job of it, but again, they do a much more digitalized like version of it.
Well, and like real time in the sense of, hey, costs continue to shift, and you had this reserve fund study written 5 years ago. You know, are those doors in that elevator actually costed out correctly, and is the condo fee actually underwriting that capital requirement properly? And the answer is, in the face of the last 3 years of inflation, the answer is no across the board.
Listen, I don't want to steal his thunder, but I have to tell you that one of the scariest answers I ever got was in my very first couple of years in this business. I worked with a different lawyer. He doesn't practice anymore. He retired, nothing bad. And I remember saying, I want to learn, right? And I'm doing this condo deal with him, and I said, what's the amount of money I'm looking for? Like, I want to be able to provide value to my client before it comes to you. I want to be an expert also. What is that level of reserve fund that needs to be in that study that's correct, right? Like, that's a red flag below, whatever. And he goes, there's no such thing. And I was like, what? And he's like, there's no such thing. Because a condo building can have 20 units, it can have 400 units, it can have 1,000 units, it could be this old, it could be this new.
There's nuance.
There's nuance, and so having less of that human, it looks okay. Yeah, I mean, and quite honestly, I have lawyers who'll be like, you know what? It's a little bit of buyer beware, but I've now been doing this long enough, I've seen so much.
You've seen it come on the back end.
I've seen so much come on the back end, and there is an element of like, it shouldn't be,
Yeah.
There should be something, right?
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I think most folks will have a home inspection as an example, and then you have a general understanding of the aging.
But that's another thing of the home inspection.
Right. And I think again, these are all the opportunities where technology can bolt on and be helpful for practitioners. And we're not suggesting that you need to be an engineer that can do a capital planning study, and we're not suggesting that you need to be a home inspector. What we're suggesting is there's other technologies out there that if you expose yourself to, that could be helpful and add more value to your customer along the way. And so I think, you know, from that perspective, it's never about straight up replacement. It's about augmentation. It's about using technology to our benefit to be even more impactful at the things that we do, and then fill ourselves with the team around us to ensure that we've got ourselves that right business. And you touched on it before, right? Real estate professionals or independent contractors, and they wake up every day without a paycheck. And I think one of the things that I admire so much about this industry is every day you've got to go out and you've got to go find your next deal. You've got to go out and you've got to find your next opportunity. And so, you know, you say, obviously you're joking a little bit that realtors are cheap. I would actually say it's not the case, is that you have finite capital with no line of sight to recurring capital.
Yeah.
And so you have to be very
new agents, for sure.
For sure. And I'll come back to the new agent comment, but like you have to be very thoughtful on what you're going to invest in, not just from a money perspective, but also from a will this be around a year from now perspective. Because a lot of folks are reluctant to work with new technology because the question is like, will you exist next year? Are you getting your data from a place in which it actually is above board? Because I don't want you getting shut down because I really like this tool and all of a sudden get shut down, right? There's a lot of folks that come in that are outsiders, don't really know the nuance, the legal ramifications, and all the different elements that you need for certain components. They can come in here and all of a sudden they're actually doing something totally not above board and they get shut down. And you, as a practitioner, You were none the wiser, but you really like this tool, and all of a sudden it's gone, and now you built your business around it. Right. So I have a lot of sympathy for around the reasons why you wouldn't want to engage. And so this is the thing that I like about Reach, is that the folks that we work with at Reach, we have diligenced them on the back end.
Right.
We have gone through the process of being like, listen, there's still a lot of risk in the business. They're still early stage for a lot of different ones, but they're doing things from a regulatory perspective that's in alignment. Right. They have line of sight to growth. They have line of sight to scale. They're delivering a clear value proposition. They need some help along the way, like every business does at every stage. But that's what we can do here, versus me just going out and Googling tech for realtors in Toronto and seeing what comes at me. And so the whole objective is, can we be that filter? Can we be that place that if you're looking to systematize or utilize technology in your business, the first place you go is nar-reach.com, and you go to the portfolio page and you go, which of these companies would make sense? And knowing full well you've got a direct introduction through the Reach team to any one of those founding teams. And I think that to me is the really cool part. And then if you want to go a layer deeper, you go to your level, which is, let me participate as a mentor, right? Let me get under the hood when they're going through the program. Let me see how the sausage is made, for lack of a better word, and really engage myself. And then, and you could probably speak to this, is when we come to the cities, right? Getting you in the room with those folks and seeing, yes, they're real people. It's not just AI. It's not just LLMs. It's not just pick your fancy favorite acronym. These are genuine humans that are trying to solve a legitimate problem, and they're trying to solve it on your behalf.
And they're so passionate. They're so, I mean, again, what's the old saying? Like, you have your own problem, and you go and figure out how to fix it, right? So they were there, they felt that pain. They didn't just pick it out of the sky, for sure. And I feel like I just want to qualify. I feel like I think that maybe it's not so much that agents are cheap, but I think it's a very good point. The general public, again, this whole, and I don't believe everybody feels this way, but like a lot of people think agents make too much money and they're overpaid. And I would really challenge, first of all, I will say, in all humbleness, like 90% of the business is done by 10% of us. 90% of those agents out there are struggling. So don't think that about them, first of all. Second of all is that, we outlay I have been in situations where I'm out six figures 100%. Before I've even seen a paycheck. Yeah. There is, and again, this is based on certain levels of business that you hit, for sure, but there's huge investment. So yes, I think the question is now, am I going to see ROI on that by investing in your business to bring it to my client, right? And what does that mean for my business, and how do I utilize it? So I've had people ask me, like, who's my favorite child? And I'm like, who would ever even say that? I'm like, I don't have I love both my children the same. I do love my dog the most.
That's the real answer.
But that's a whole, even though he's in the other room, would probably bite you. But I love my dog the most. But no, so I hate to put you on the spot, but was there one company when you started, from the time that you started this 4 years ago, that really like blew you away?
I would say it's less of one company. It's more a set of attributes.
Okay, I will let you get away with that.
And I mean, you picked your dog, so this is my version of a dog. But no, genuinely speaking, I sit in a very privileged position where we get to sit back and we get to listen. We get to listen to the industry, all aspects, right? Associations, the executive level, the staff, the actual practitioners themselves, the brokers, the homeowners, the construction industry, right? The insurance, we get to sit back, the venture capital industry, we get to sit back and we get to listen.
Right.
And with that, you're given 2 ears, one mouth. You get to sit back and you get to see things and watch trends start to emerge. Okay. And so the trends that have started to emerge, again, we've worked hands-on with 39 companies. We've obviously talked to, been in front of, and exposed to a lot more, is that it's really this humble, approachable receptiveness to feedback is the number one thing that we're looking for. And so anytime I get that with a founder, it is truly a step function change multiplier for their growth. And the reason being is that I don't know what the market wants. And you just said it at the earlier part of the podcast. I am but a sample size of one, right? I'm of an opinion of one. And so what does that mean? It means that if you're going to build something for more than one person, i.e. more than just yourself, you need to be open and receptive to the feedback of the masses. Right. And I remember one of our advisors in the earlier days, he said, the amount of time that we wasted yelling at each other in a boardroom, going blue in the face about what would work on a product and what wouldn't, when the solution was simply this. You have an idea, they have an idea. Let's put both out into the market and see which one wins. Okay. And here's how we define if it wins. Okay. From a human personal level, which person is willing to put themselves out there before they feel they're ready, get that feedback because it hurts. If you think about it, what
it's
you're
your
saying
baby,
is,
right?
You're asking people to call your baby ugly. You're literally doing that. And then you're saying, yeah, you're right. Like it's a little ugly. Let's polish it on this side. Let's polish it on this side. And then you're back. How ugly is it now? And they're like, it's still really ugly. Okay, let me do this. All the while worrying about how much money you're spending, hiring great top talent, what's going to be going on forward, how the regulatory regime is shifting,
right.
What, if any, all of a sudden you've got Canadian domiciled firms that are now looking at a potential 25% tariff. Well, you can debate whether it's going to happen or not, but the point is these headwinds continue to hit you. And so the people that survive and thrive through that are the ones that can adapt, change, and evolve, not different than organisms writ large. And so if you think about it, it's that core trait. And so what I'm always excited about is, A, do they have that when we're working with them? And if not, do they shift into that? That's what I really like to see. Because if you can shift into that place of adaptability, taking that feedback and being able to handle it, because it's really hard. And let me tell you, there's nothing harder than picking up the phone to somebody that you don't really know and then have them just tell you how bad you are at your job, especially when you're A-type. And then be like, thank you very much. Can I have some more? Right. Can I call you in 6 months? And
can I call 10 more people?
And if you can do that, your company is game changing. Or it will be a step function change better. And so to me, that's what I'm looking for, as opposed to solutions. Because again, you've even said it, there's such a distribution of folks. And so it's hard to pick like that one's super cool, that one's great, or this one's awesome. Right. It's really like they're all great. They really are. But from a founder perspective, it's that receptiveness. That's the key.
Well, and it's receptiveness, but I also think like you can be a tech founder, but can you also be a salesperson? Because you have to sell your product now.
Yeah,
right?
But everybody has to sell.
Everybody has to sell. But I think that, does everybody know they have to sell?
I think so.
that like it's that old adage, like why do so many restaurants go out of business? Mm-hmm. Well, because you can be a great chef, but can you run a business?
Yep.
Right? So same idea, and it's not for the faint. When you were like, can you call 10 more people? I'm like, it sounds like my job. Why is my household? But
But with that comes great opportunity if you can persevere through it. Right. And I think to go back to
and if you know how to answer that.
And I think also it comes back to your core why. Why are you doing what you're doing? And are you determined on that? And one of the things that people, if they have yet to start a company, are like, I'm thinking about this. I've got this idea. Everybody's got ideas. Thinking about doing it. And the first thing I'll say is, are you willing to commit the next 10 years of your life to being told that you're wrong about your idea, and that you're stupid for pursuing it, that's right, and that it's never going to work? Yeah. Because if you're prepared for that, and by the way, nobody is, but you can put your helmet on and you can lean into it and try. You don't know until you go and you do it. But at the end of the day, what are you trying to do? You're trying to create a future that doesn't exist today, and most people will be like, that's impossible.
But you're like, I was a geologist. I'm telling you.
I'm telling you, it's in the ground. I'm telling you, I was not a good geologist. A lot of misses.
No.
But the ones that hit, right?
No,
if it hits, the
sure.
opportunity's there. And this is just it. You are effectively that person in the old school town being like, the sky is falling, but it's really going to be awesome. And then all of a sudden it actually happens. Something happens, right?
I have a very good friend who was trying to figure out if she wanted to continue in a role that she was in. And I said to her, if you don't love what you do, and I truly mean this, and I would say it to my children, if you don't love what you do, your bad days are going to be horrendous. Yeah. Like, we all have bad days. I absolutely love what I do. I would not want to do anything other than what I would do.
Totally.
Right now. Yep. Okay? I am doing exactly what I love. Truly, there is no other job I want in this world.
I love it.
And I am so passionate about it that those days where I'm like, I am done. I never say, I don't want to do this anymore. I never say, I don't want to do this anymore. And so that is what I imagine you're looking for in that person, because if you are not so passionate to get punched over and over again and keep getting back up because you believe in it. Okay, so we won't belabor that point. So I'm going to try it one more time. We talked about, I'm anything but persistent, but we talked about also like that tipping point, right? And I think it's coming. I think there is a tipping point coming with technology in the real estate market. And I think the boards, and I'm not NRA, I'm not TREB, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but there's going to come a point where they're going to lose a little bit of their strongholds. And I think that there'll be some technology that takes over that will not muscle agents out, but again, will shift their value proposition. Okay. And I still have said this a long time. I think the agents that will last the long term are the ones that are showing up and doing the financial, review, that are calling and finding out, what's going on in their lives, that are bringing them value on a consistent basis and not just showing up with a for sale sign. Do you see it coming soon? Do you see a tipping point in the industry coming? Like, I really feel like we've been on the cusp of, and I don't even know what that other side looks like. But I can feel it in the air.
So the analogy I always like to use is the frog in boiling water, right? It's kind of a gruesome one when you think about it. But when you're in it, right? When you're in it, you don't notice the temperature changing, right? However, if you were to not be in it and jump in, you'd be like, "Oh, that's really hot. I don't want to be in it."
Hence the number of agents that went down this year.
Perhaps. And so I think it affords us to take a step back and say, you said you started in 2012. And I would ask, and I would ask you this: how many in a day in 2012? What technology tools did you use?
0.
Did you use email?
Yes.
Did you text?
Sure. I don't remember what I did yesterday.
Was there still a fax machine in the office? I'm going to say probably.
Probably.
Yeah,
you think
probably.
So?
And some of them had iFax, which were you'd fax it to an email.
You know what there was? You remember those machines where you put it in, it bound them with like the...
Yeah, totally. And so you were doing listing reports.
You almost gave me a look and I'm like, oh my God, he doesn't remember what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so you're doing listing reports with bound copies. You're going to staple, you're printing out. And some folks still do that, by the way.
Oh my God.
Okay, yeah. So that was 2012. Let's just park that for a second, okay?
Okay.
2024. What technologies do you use?
Not enough.
I didn't ask that. Which ones do you use?
God damn it. Well, I use DocuSign.
Okay, DocuSign, that's one. Email?
I use email.
Do you fax anymore?
No.
Do you text or do you call people?
I text a lot.
Text a lot? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a CRM?
Yes.
Okay, got a CRM.
Yeah.
What else do we do?
Follow-up boss.
Okay, great. Any marketing systems? Do you do any email? What do you do for, how do you do your advertising? Like your design stuff?
No, my office does it.
Okay, office does it?
Yeah, like I don't use Canva. Like
Okay, yeah. But does the office does all that
Yeah,
stuff in the back end?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
What about when you do a deal? Any digital stuff on the back end there? Any conveyancing software?
No.
Okay, it's all paper files, etc. Okay. Your mortgage brokers? Digital? Some of them?
No. No.
Alex?
Oh, Alex. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's just do that. 5 right there.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could go down the list if we wanted to. There's a number of different
But by
things.
the way, I have to say to you that one of the reasons I don't use more tech is I have not, other than Alex, in the sense of finding a place into
Follow-Up Boss, DocuSign.
DocuSign, fair
Those have
enough.
clearly made your life a little better.
But for example, like the first thing I was thinking as we started talking was, I want the name of the company that does a digital version of the value of the home, because I will do that on a manual basis for my clients.
Right.
But there's 5 things I could come up with that I would love from a digital perspective that I could call and say, I would love to partner with you and do a report on the financial,
health and
investment
wellness.
of my...
Exactly. And then you white label it as yourself, and this is a value proposition you do for your customers, et cetera.
Love.
Yeah, it exists. It
Great.
exists. So, and there's a number of options for it. And so...
All my clients listening, it's coming. Yeah.
So on that, and you're going to love it. But on that, I guess, where I'm going with this is, is the change coming? Are we here? Is the taste in the air? And what I'm showing you is in less than, let's call it just over 10 years, right?
Yeah.
We've had this dramatic shift.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of other folks right now, they're throwing ChatGPT on for all different aspects. It's
Oh yeah, no, I tried. You know what? I started with that, and then I was like, ugh, it feels ChatGPT. Like I don't want to use it.
Well, and I think it depends on what you're looking for. So, and I'll give you an example. A lot of folks were getting into a bunch of hot water for writing the listing descriptions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's put that to the side.
Yeah.
How about this? Hey, I've got this client in this neighborhood that I really want to be thoughtful about how I approach it. I'm thinking of approaching from I want to do the macro. I want to do a bit of the dynamics of the community. I want to know, generally speaking, where people kind of live and work, et cetera. Can you help me frame out how I might approach a presentation to this customer? Boom, boom, boom. Here's 10 things. Then you go and do the work. Here's your 10 Here's your 10 slides to being the expert in a new area that you weren't otherwise. You're still going to do the research, by the way. You're going to fact check it, validate it. But within seconds,
ideas.
you've taken your initial concept and you've put some structure around it, right? And now you can pull together your listing present. So to me, that would be a great first step. And then you start to see different use cases as you're going along. Follow-up boss. Hey, you know what? I'm looking at these 200 clients. You know, the average time since sale has been about this. The market I'm in is Toronto. What other indicators might I look for big decisions, right? The 4 Ds, right?
Right.
Diamond, diapers, death, and divorce, right? How might I look for all those different things? And it might be like, well, you know what? In Toronto, what we're seeing is actually an interesting shift with the recent drop in the HPI index over the last 9 months. Folks that otherwise were investing in pre-construction condos are now looking to reinvest in their own properties to do some renovations to put that capital work in a different way. You're like, hey, you know what? There's actually some really interesting tech companies I could connect my folks with when I go and meet with them for my annual coffee. One of which is that company BidMe that Mike was talking about. They do really interesting stuff. So yet again, another example of how you could go down that. And so I get that that's there, but it is this crawl, walk, run, and then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, my Tesla is driving itself.
Right.
We're talking about sending people to Mars.
And all that
and there is
and
all of a sudden AI is literally everywhere. And I don't know if you've noticed when you Google something, you no longer get 10 blue links. You get Gemini's pre-sum at the top. Yeah. And that happened, 3 weeks ago? Yeah. And so I guess where I'm going with this is we have this view consistently in society that all of a sudden there'll just be this, like, I wake up one day and the world's different. And of course,
that's Malcolm Gladwell's fault.
Well, and there are, you know, and if you want to use the Silicon Valley narrative or like the sci-fi narrative, there's these timeline splits, right? Where there was this one world and it went this direction and we had this big event happen and now it's gone this other direction. Well, we've had a number of those, but it depends on your lens. And so from a realtor's perspective, I would ask the question of, listen, what can you control today?
Right.
What makes you even more valuable to your customer tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And how can you invest in yourself to continue to go down the path that set you on the path of being this practitioner in the space? What will make you even more passionate about what you're doing? And just do more of that. And all of the rest is noise.
I love it. I feel like we have to end it there. That's amazing. I also am like thinking, as I'm in the middle of writing my business plan for next year, I'm like,
it's a great time of year
more
to do it. Yeah.
tech.
Yeah.
But I'll bug you about that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. I so appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.